Okay, welcome back. We are in late March then, 1853, and we are past turn, and what we have to present you is a chaotic and a confused picture. Omar Pasha, of course, was set to a defensive posture. We can see that we have changed his posture. We'll go through that in a moment. Now, it's not really entirely clear what's happened. There is a feature of this game. It's a feature of warfare. It's a feature of warfare that is well captured and depicted by this game. But, at the very least, we can say that a portion of the Russian force that was in Augusta, or maybe all of it, has fallen into the hinterland. It's engaged a Bashi Bazouk force that we had, just really for domestic security in Macedonia. That's falling back into Sofia. And presumably they're moving south to threaten Salonika. There is a British force there. A considerable enough British force that hopefully that'll sort of hold in Salonika. But yeah, that's the story of what we think was the Russian force in Augusta. I don't know what the supply situation is. Their intelligence there is very limited. Loyalty with the local population there is very low, and that does affect how much information we can get about their force. But a confused picture anyway. It looks like they've fallen back. Now, at the same time, it seems that either a portion of that Russian force has maybe moved into Plevna, because Omar Pasha was set to a defensive posture. He wouldn't have engaged anything. They've moved in kind of quite heavy weather. We can see now that the snows have largely cleared up, but the Balkan Peninsula is kind of currently covered in torrential rain. That's the case for a lot of Anatolia as well, in patches. But we now can see that there is a large mixed force. We can see all these tabs, divisions, brigades, either in the fortress or in this region. Well, in addition to that, I should say, before we go into what we're going to do, it looks like there's been a large Russian landing at Varna or Rumelia. Now, we know that a very small Russian brigade broke off into Rumelia, and yeah, it looks like they've organised some kind of mass landing. Now, we don't know where this is from. What is this? Is this a mixture of forces that they've had sat in the Crimea? Are these forces they've had marching south all this time? Maybe they got to Sevastopol. They've used the kind of rain, the heavy kind of rain in the Black Sea, to conduct a landing, sort of right under our noses. We were conducting a naval combat patrol, albeit one that was moving around in the Black Sea, but it's happened under our noses. It's mixed forces. There's a corps here, or that seems to be, I don't know, well, there's a cavalry division and a corps there of some description. Lots of mixed forces in Rumelia, and we even have a brigade that has got as far south and is sitting outside Adrianople. I think there's a British force in Gallipoli. Hopefully that might move up, or there's some Marines in Constantinople, but it's some French Marines in Constantinople, but it's a really weird, confused picture. And what we have at the moment of passing turn is a kind of freeze frame, really, of things in movement. And yeah, I mean, is this could be Vorontsov's force, the kind of rather benign general in the east, the elderly general who would periodically move in. I mean, he was 3-4 months ago in Bitlis. He's pulled back. Maybe they've just given up on the on the southern Caucasus for the time being, calculating that the snow, the mountains means that nothing quick is going to happen there, and they've moved their forces across the Black Sea, using presumably a mixture of riverine transports and maybe heavy lift capacity, and they've just conducted a landing north of Adrianople. It's a pretty smart move. It kind of isolates Omar Pasha. I'm not too worried about that, but we do have to kind of, deal with this situation now in the eastern part of the Balkan Peninsula, but before we focus on the force we was fighting, which is their main command in now sort of southern Serbia, I suppose. We are going to have to act decisively with the forces that we've got. Omar Pasha's command is not in any kind of wonderful state, but we are going to, for the first time, I think, set to an assault posture. We're going to be looking to clear this region out completely of any Russian forces. Furthermore, we're going to assault the fortress. If there are mixed Russian forces, if there's sneaking forces into that fortress, we don't want that happening. It is risky, but we're going to go for a full assault. It might not come off. If it doesn't, I guess we go north to Constantinople. Maybe we head south towards Sofia, something like that. I don't know what the options would be there. 16 days in torrential rain, but we'll see if we can pull it off. Now, Ismail, who was in command of one of the cavalry divisions in Omar's force, has been given the spare, basically the reserve army corps. He's going to move into Varna And the idea is he's going to try and basically isolate this Russian force in Romania. He is set to an offensive posture and all-out attack. The fleet, which was about to dock into Constantinople for a bit of a break, is now going to be moving north, and we're going to be sitting basically off of Varna and Rumelia. The fleet is going to be set to all-out attack. It's going to engage anything it sees, naval interception and fleet bombardment. So that it's going to bring its guns to bear on the coastal region here. But we're going to look to isolate this region off from the sea. But yeah, very kind of topsy-turvy sort of end to March. The Russians seem to do this. It's like a kind of it's like kind of fighting a boxer that engages in constant clinches and kind of wears you down, and then engages in very brief explosive flurries. And yeah, we kind of saw that with the sort of fall of Sofia. You almost feel, you start getting comfortable with them. You think, okay, I'm not, I'm still fighting in the Balkans. I have to do this, and then all of a sudden something sort of, they throw something a little bit sort of spontaneous, a bit confusing. You don't know where it's coming from. But yeah, this force, we didn't even know they had forces up there. My assumption was if the Russians had forces in Crimea, they would have marched them to Bessarabia and start putting pressure, but they haven't done that. This force is, whatever it is, it's a mixed force of, I don't know, 30, 40,000, maybe more, maybe less. Yeah, has just sort of spontaneously emerged in the Western Black Sea, and is landing basically from Rumelia to Varna. That has to be dealt with, of course. No sign of any leaders. That said, here it suggests we've got a Donskaya Kazakh Divizia. I don't know what that means. It's yeah, Don Cossacks, Don Kazakh. I don't know. I mean, the Don region and Kazakh regions are obviously different, but maybe Don Cossack division. Also here, Gorchakov's corps, so there is an army corps also there. We don't know what state it's in, but yeah, there's Gorchakov. That suggests to me that maybe a part of this Russian force has broken off and moved in to try and support the landing from the other side. And it's basically kind of worked its way past Omar's force. I don't know, not clear yet, but we're going to have to deal with that. The situation has now stabilised completely in Libya. Cavalry divisions moved back up into, I guess this is Benghazi, and the infantry brigade. So cavalry brigade's Benghazi, infantry brigade's moving back into Cyrenaica and towards Tobruk. Of course, we won the engagement outside Sana. That's really, really good. We're going to keep this force in Sana for the time being. And yeah, just sit tight outside the town. Try and make sure our organisation is as good as possible. We are getting some supplies. Maybe this trickling through here. I don't know exactly where it's coming from. I mean, we have a very small depot. That depot maybe is tracing supplies from somewhere, but this force seems to be in supply for the time being. Well, we're just going to sit tight, really. There's not much we can do. In the east, it's looking like that cavalry division was destroyed in Bitlis. Or at the very least, it's vanished, but unless it's that, I don't know. But Hussein Avdi's moving north anyway. It's going to take him 12 days, and he's going to be rejoining Rita Pasha's command. Excuse me. And then Rita Pasha, I think we're going to head him east towards Kars, and then we're going to be looking to basically putting some pressure on the kind of Caucasus front, the southern Caucasus front. Maybe make a move towards Tiflis or something like that. There are mixed forces there. It looks like, yeah, a Grenadier Corps, a couple of kind of fortress divisions, this sort of thing. But that's pretty much it in terms of the moves. Then the things in terms of economy, then we have begun to build an exploitation center, collection and exploitation center. And again, this kind of red region is a region that is kind of completely localized in terms of its economy. We're not looking to exploit this region yet, but we are going to take some preemptive measures to basically get this region kind of plugged into the national economy, really. And a kind of exploitation and collection region will do that. It will serve as a kind of focal point for the kind of very localized economy to collect resources, accumulate resources, and then sell them on the national market. In terms of our economy, that's pretty much it. I mean, Constantinople has completed its fortification upgrade. It now has a modern industrial fort. You can see there's a slightly different graphic for the fortress. And looking around the map, I'm curious to see, you know, it might actually be the first of its kind. Is London even fortified? Why would it be, right? Yeah, even though the Ottoman Empire is quite backward, this might actually be the first fortress of this kind. I'm just looking at the graphics of the other fortresses. Of course, not many other powers have any kind of necessity to upgrade fortresses. So, yeah, you know, textbook kind of combined uneven development. We're a backward, well, almost pre-industrial society. We're just entering into the Industrial Revolution, and yet we've used this huge prestige project to upgrade the fortress of Constantinople. That means that this is a very formidable fortress. We've basically utilized the most modern techniques and technologies and this kind of thing to upgrade the fortress. So that's really, really good news. It doesn't make it penetrable, but it means that the Russians are going to have a really hard time ever taking Constantinople in a siege. Certainly if they assaulted this, even with an army of 100,000, they wouldn't take it. Like they would suffer catastrophic losses. We're going to eventually look to beef up the garrison in there also. That's it. Our economy is set. Exports are set for this turn. And we're going to pass turn, I think, and see what happens. Good sold in the national market, 227, or 63 units for 227. Imports, 55. We've now cut off manufactured goods imports. We've got really good manufactured goods stockpile, and our crafts production and manufactories are now are basically generating enough manufactured goods that I don't think we're going to have to import for a while. And we have exported 46 merchandises for 110. That's basically it in terms of our economy. Our military moves are set. It is going to be a climactic period, I think. I can't see how this wouldn't result in massive battles or a string of engagements. But yeah, there's going to be violence going down in northern Bulgaria as we enter into early April. So let's click past turn and see what happens. As I watched the turn unfold, it was a moment of alarm that struck me, but I think the thing to bear in mind in the eastern Balkan Peninsula is that they are mostly unorganized forces, but we can see at sea. I mean, I didn't even mention that. We can see here, just off the coast, there it looks like a stack of other riverine transports, possibly other kinds of transports. The hope is that 2 days. I mean, the main fleet of the Bosporus here is 2 days travel, and then it's just going to sit tight for the entire time. The hope is that 2 days we catch something in 2 days. You know, maybe the Russians, maybe this. I don't know exactly where these forces came from. I'm only guessing that this was a landing. This may have been that a large part of the Russian force broke off and is seeking to escape. So it may be happening the other way round. And that's, you know, again, it's a part of warfare in this period. You just don't. It's not really clear all the time what exactly is happening. And as I say, I do like that. I don't mind that. That is what warfare's like in the last analysis, isn't it? It's, you know, it's really unpredictable. It can be really chaotic. And certainly things have gotten a bit chaotic in the Balkan Peninsula. But the frustrating thing is, of course, is the really tempting thing is to kind of panic, you know, think, okay, march Omar Pasha all the way south to Adrianople. But the reality is, in torrential rain, it's going to take him, it's going to take him 4 weeks. 2 turns probably, something like that. He'll get there completely exhausted, you know, and I think the main thing is we take Plevna, we retake the fortress. Now this assault might not come off, but we shall see. If it doesn't, I just hope that his losses aren't too devastating. If it doesn't, I guess we fall back to I don't know, Sofia. Recover in the kind of inside the fortress in Sofia. But then if Sofia becomes besieged by these forces, these Russian forces here, that's the thing as well. It's really getting information on the size of these Russian forces. Are these really small Russian forces that have broken off? You know, is this the entire Russian command that was in Agosta? It's a funny one. And there will be turns like that in wars at different times where you'll think, okay, what the hell has just happened? What's going on? And I think what's happened here, well, we need to keep a cool head, but I think what's happened here, it will become clear probably in the next few turns. But I'm not too worried. I don't think we should be too concerned. We shouldn't panic too much. But yeah, is what I thought. And in the east, it's completely quiet. There is a bit of a temptation to just march Riza Pasha all the way to the west and just basically leave the east as it is. We've got 2 fortresses and maybe leave a very small force. Maybe just build a couple of divisions or something and send them east. But anyway, one thing I didn't mention, I'll show you this at the beginning of the turn actually, is I have made a couple of very small colonial moves. I'm not investing a lot into it, but Tunisia is a kind of focal point for both Piedmont, Sardinia and France, and it's a former Beylik of the Ottoman Empire. And I don't think we're going to look to colonize it, because it's just going to draw the ire of the kind of Italians, or Sardinia and France. But I'm thinking if we have sufficient colonial penetration and we maintain that, we can use that basically as a way of continuously staking a claim, which might periodically create crises for these powers, which we don't necessarily, we're not sort of keen to kind of we're not kind of too keen to engage in any kind of conflict with Italy or France just yet anyway. But the idea is it might result in kind of atrophying of their colonial penetration. The idea is that we can just try and keep Tunisia as it is, semi-autonomous, or completely autonomous actually, de facto. I think probably de jure this time, it was probably, as was Egypt, well, they were still kind of legally deemed as kind of Beyliks of the Ottoman Empire, but they were just obviously de facto independent. That's how they're depicted. I think Egypt may have actually been de facto independent. Egypt had a conflict, broke away, I think, properly in the 1830s and 1840s, possibly earlier. But they tried to launch an invasion of the Ottoman Empire and did incredibly well. They got right into Anatolia. And I don't exactly know why. This was during the time where the Ottoman army was being recreated, reorganized, and perhaps they were exploiting that. And presumably the Egyptian army, the kind of colonial army in Egypt, would have been pretty poor quality, I would have thought. Compared to the Ottoman army that we have now, it certainly would have been. But yeah, they were kind of warned off, I think, by the British and the French, and I think the British even intervened. I don't know much about it, but the Egyptian leader was Muhammad Ali, was his name actually. And yeah, he did very well in conducting a campaign against the Ottomans. And even though he was kind of, I think his plan was to actually seize the throne in Constantinople. And it would have ended the Ottoman reign. He wasn't from the Osmanli house. It would have ended their reign. But anyway, it didn't come off. Obviously, he was told to turn back. And I think the Russians also. I think the Russian fear was they didn't really want an aggressive, capable leader in Constantinople, and they figured at the time that it was the case that the leader in Constantinople was probably much more kind of benign, and that Muhammad Ali in Egypt was obviously much more aggressive, was presumably a very capable military figure, given that with a force that was probably qualitatively inferior to the Ottomans, had been able to kind of, he was approaching Constantinople, as I understand it, when the Europeans intervened, so he did very well for himself. I don't know much about the details of that conflict. It'd be fascinating to look into that, actually. The kind of Ottoman-Egyptian kind of episode. Okay. Well, that looks like an engagement outside, so we took 3,200 prisoners, destroyed 5 regiments, inflicted 3,000 casualties, so yeah, that's fine. Happy with that. That's day 1. Will he go on to assault the fortress? Problem is that sometimes engagements kind of, here we go, yeah, oh yes. Oh my god, look at that, that is 12,800 prisoners, 26,000 casualties, yeah, that's really good. We can see there's a range of other Cossack regiment, there's lots of other mixed forces. I think they kind of did in Plevna what we did in Sana, in Aden. They saw 4 rounds of combat as well. Our force is probably exhausted, I don't see anything after that. But yeah, I think they did the same thing. They kind of snuck a load of forces into Plevna, thinking, okay, we'll do that. And then, yeah, no, we took Plevna. Excellent. It looks like there's some kind of revolt going on in, oh, here we go. Yeah, they have commanders. They're actually landing commanders. Things are getting really weird in the eastern Balkans. Well, we took Plevna back, so that goes into the win column. So we have Plevna, Sofia. We still have a British force sitting up here. It looks like, I mean, this is taking a while as well. So our fleet is engaging in, well, oh, here it goes. Ooh, spicy. So that was in Varna. Now, what that was March to the Sound of the Guns. So that was that reserve army corps. Yeah, you can see the first round he's on his own, but the second round of combat, Omar's committed his forces. That's really nice March to the Sound of the Guns effect. And Pavel Gorshakov, right. That gives us some intelligence in that force. 35,000, 10,000 casualties, 17, so 1,700 prisoners. We took 10,000 casualties, but a win. Another win. Spicy turn. Oh, looks like the French moved into... we're getting these intelligence reports of kind of battles kind of crackling away in France and China. It looks like France has some kind of insurgency or revolt. It may just be a sort of like a workers' revolt in France that the regime is suppressing. And obviously what's happening in China is the ongoing Taiping rebellion. China would be an interesting faction to play one day. Very backward, chaotic during this time, but I wondered if a capable player would be able to consolidate and kind of harness the colossal strength, intrinsic power of China, its sort of size, its population, wide range of commodities and that kind of thing. One day, years from now, I think I probably won't. It's such an undertaking. Any kind of campaign in this game is such an undertaking that you do have to kind of think like that. You think, well, I might play that faction in a couple of years' time. Let's see what the hell has happened then in the Balkan Peninsula. Starting to get a slightly clearer picture. Gorchakov, I think, was a part of the main command. Let's have a look. So, changes from battles. I'm just looking at national morale. That's good. So we've got +2. Let's have a look at Russian national morale. They're at 93. We're on 94. Okay. Okay, so we, whatever way you cut it, we took Plevna and the reserve corps. Looks like it took some losses. It's pretty badly disorganized. Oh my god, is that what we're up to? Is it? Gonna try and besiege Constantinople, are we? I think not. How long will it take Omar? 28 days. For Christ's sake, this bloody weather. At the very least, these Russians look rather stalled over here. I mean, that's a corps and a division. What else is there? Yeah, they're not going to be taking Constantinople. Looks like the French lost a battle at Rumelia. Just judging by the general condition of this French force compared to this Russian force under Gorchakov. 12 days. Damn. 13 days. So there's nothing we can do because the force is tired, I mean, in the last analysis, they're not going to take Adrianople or Constantinople. So their forces being there, is not good. But at the same time, I don't have any significant concerns. Right. Let's have a look through our reports proper. Bashi Bazooks evading the enemy. They'll be in Sofia in 5 days. We're going to enter Sofia when they're there. We won't read through battle reports because we kind of have the benefit of those. Yeah, so we can see the information on the fleet bombarding specific units, and it's had a good effect. Yeah, it's landed hits on those units, so the fleet's done well now. And that was the +1. Good stuff. I mean, in the last analysis, we didn't lose any fortresses. We took Plevna back. We risked it for the biscuit, and it paid off. We'll keep the fleet. We'll keep the fleet here. We'll keep bombarding. Oh, I didn't mention actually. Yeah, I had sent that merchant that I began building about 2 months ago. It's completed, so that's sitting in the Western Europe maritime trade box. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a case of sitting tight all around, I think. We'll set Ismail to retreat if engaged, and we'll keep Omar Pasha's force to hold at all costs. And the idea is, once the weather clears up, I mean, in clear weather, we could march all the way to Constantinople probably in 12 days, completely clear this out. And these forces are in a really dicey spot here, because the only depot they can take, I mean, I'm always saying this, and yet they just seem to exist forever. What we don't want to happen is for this to become some kind of new permanent thing, where Russian forces just are kind of knocked around in some kind of endless cycle around Constantinople, not least because there are forces over here. But these forces, whatever way we cut it, they just don't have a source of supply. So yeah, there's only so much supply they're going to lift from moving around and pillaging the land. I mean, you can sustain an army on that, moving around and sort of lifting supplies from the land. That obviously damages our economy in the short term. It recovers, but the area recovers. But yeah, okay. Oh, someone's promotable. Ahmed Pasha's promotable. Okay. You've mastered a new technology, coal cleaning. That's good. That's what's a quick gather at. So precision machining and mild steel production seem to be surging ahead. They'll probably overtake percussion capped muskets, probably because neighbouring powers have that. So mild steel production gives us obviously a steel plant. Precision machining allows us to build basically machines like machine parts or machine tools or something like that. It's a special kind of manufactured good. It's basically something that will feature in factories, mechanical goods sort of thing. It's a special kind of industrial commodity, which is mostly used, of course, in industrial development. What am I even looking for? Coal cleaning, that's right. This is one of those things I really, really hate watching people play, when they scroll through things and you're like, it's there, I can see it. Okay, yeah, so that's basically input cost for it's basically improves the quality of our coal mines, of which we have none. Although, with a burgeoning industrial base being developed in Constantinople, that is going to be a consideration soon, I think. But not railroads yet, so he's promotable. Ahmed Pasha. Alright, let's pop him into. What I'm slightly tempted to do here is to deposit forces into the fortress of Plevna, just because they will recover quicker and receive replacements quicker. I'm thinking of the Imperial Guard under Khurshid Pasha. And the only purpose of that is breaking guard off, just allow them to receive replacements and to recover quicker, basically. And kind of rotate our army corps in that fashion. It might just kind of speed up its recovery and cohesion. Alright, bought 5 steel, so we sold 3 textiles, 2 tobacco, 10 iron, minerals, coal. We are selling a little bit of coal just because we have so much that basically we're experiencing wastage, so there's no point in stockpiling anymore. That looked like a pretty decent turn on exports, that. So 61 units in the national market for 214. That's one of the lowest indices we've seen in quite some time. Obviously, we're seeing the effects of the war, the kind of devastation in the Balkan Peninsula. Won't take long to kind of clear that up. It's not like 20th century wars, but that said, you kind of imagine what Plevna would look like right now with all the battles and the sieges. Yeah, that was inevitable. Okay. Okay, let's just check the economy real quick though. Let's try and keep 50 coal back, just in case. A bit more quite stuck by the timber at the moment. Now I've turned the conversion of agricultural goods into preserved foods because we're experiencing the same thing with preserved foods as coal, just basically wastage on the basis of having too much of the stuff. Your economy can only hold a certain amount of one kind of commodity, and eventually once it becomes flooded, you have something sort of similar, I suppose, what the Americans had in the 50s. There's just so much of something it starts falling off of trucks, or the kind of mid-19th century equivalent of trucks. It just vanishes into the ether. So you can't kind of stockpile things in a sort of infinitely. Okay. Let's just check through kind of diplomatic and other events. Okay, and that bumps us up to 5. We have just surpassed Prussia in terms of prestige. I mean, this will change, of course. We'll probably slide down the ranks again at some point. But yeah, it's on the back of this war. It's on the back of, despite the fact that, it doesn't look like it's going well, but it sort of is. So we are number 5. Who's number 4? I can't quite make it who number 4 is. Let's have a quick look in scores and objectives. So our prestige is 2-2. Austria, Prussia, Russia, I think is number 4. Yeah, it will be. Or the United States. It's a toss-up between Russia and the United States. Okay. Big drop-off, though, between 4 and 5, so we're nowhere near as prestigious as those nations. Alright, let's have a look at what's happening in the East. Omar. Oh my god, Rita Pasha's activated. How could this be? How long is it going to take you? 13 days. And after that, 28. Well, I think let's get him into cars. Let's get into cars. Let's move his force up to the frontier. And then we are going to take Omar. We're going to take Rita Pasha into action against one of these forts. We won't try and storm it. We'll just sit outside or besiege it for a while and see if we can kind of at least generate the interest of Vorontsov. He was a general that had an army there at some point, and God knows where he is. Oh man, that force is upsettingly large. How many days? 21 days. That's 21 days in any direction, pretty much. I think we just keep them there, hold at all costs. Supplies are starting to dwindle again now, though. At some point, I'm looking at the Horn of Africa as a kind of a natural place for us to colonize as well. I think once the Arabian Peninsula is properly consolidated, though, but by the time that happens, the Sardinians and then I guess the Italians, if they form, will have made some headway there. But it'd be an area that we could squabble over with the Italians. Yeah, I mean, economy's set, isn't it? Basically, if any of these glow red, it means that you've made some kind of daft error. Because there's a force sitting outside Constantinople that is going to disrupt our economy. It means that we basically can't get the commodities that are being, made there out, sort of thing. They're kind of trapped in the city, so it is a form of economic warfare. There's nothing we can do about it, though. It's as simple as that. There's just nothing we can do about it. He's set to kind of defend and retreat. We'll just have him set to, just defend and retreat. Actually, no, we'll have him set to... No, we'll just leave it. Stop panicking. Stop overthinking it. Alright, early April. I can't leave it at a cliffhanger like this. I actually feel like I have to play on. And it might make for a boringly long video, but that's the problem when you actually enjoy the game you're playing, isn't it? I could just play a parallel game. I don't document on YouTube and then play lots of turns, but what the hell? Everything's set. Yeah, everything's set. Quickly just check my export balance, make sure I haven't missed anything. You can see tobacco. I'm having to go choke that off because I can't get anything into Constantinople. We're going to have to clear that out soon. Right, pass turn. I mean, it kind of looks bad, but it's sort of not, because they don't control anything. They don't control any significant objectives. It's really disruptive, and it's messy. It looks messy on the map. It's map gore. But yeah, it's also what war's like before you have continuous front lines as well. Like you have kind of, these are really large kind of Napoleonic armies, I think. I mean, I think in the mid-19th century, the armies were still about the size of the Napoleonic War. I mean, I think the biggest battle to date, I think, was Solferino, maybe. I think that was larger than any battle in the Napoleonic Wars. And that was the kind of sign that armies are becoming larger, I suppose, with the development of kind of modern administration and supply and this sort of thing. But at least in the French army, it was limited by the fact the French army relied on this business. It relied quite a lot on using the land, living on the land, passing through regions. It meant that their armies couldn't be very static, because they just the armies just ate everything up around them, But I think that the British in particular, when they landed in Portugal and during the kind of Peninsular War, I think they had to develop a bit more of an elaborate supply system. And of course, you won't really do if your allies are the Portuguese and the Spanish to have your armies kind of looting as they pass through areas wholesale. But I think by this time, all armies obviously used proper supply trains. They had depots. They had a more kind of sophisticated system of supplies. And yeah, the armies were becoming larger. But we're still kind of in the period of Napoleonic armies, I suppose. Talking of which, it'd be nice if France made more of a showing, or Britain, or both, or either. They just seem to sort of land force. I mean, they have forces dotted around. I suppose they are helpful. It's better to have them there than not at all. And certainly in Salonika, for example, the British force sitting there is, acting as a bit of a deterrent. But yeah, more would be nicer. Now I'm thinking that next turn is going to be late April. We should have the accumulated private capital and manufactured goods and steel for another manufactory. And I'm tempted to put in Constantinople, but probably not while it's being besieged. I mean, there's no chance of it falling, but the advantage of building everything in one city to begin with is that we only have to lay one railroad to kind of like, for all of those factories, or one section of railroad for all of those factories to kind of enjoy the benefit. We'll be connecting these kind of manufactories up with each other, really, and with the main port. So very, very quickly we can kind of boost our economy, if you like. It kind of propels it into the new age. Whereas if we have factories decentralized, scattered into different towns and cities throughout Anatolia, that's all very well, but the process of increasing the productive efficiency of our factories is going to be much more gradual, because railroads are expensive, and like factories, they take time. To build a stretch of railroad, it can take a year, or I think it takes a year or so. But if we have 5-6 factories in Constantinople, which makes sense because that's where, much of the population of the empire is concentrated in Constantinople. It's a huge metropolis. Then, spending, after a year of developing a railroad in that region, yeah, instantly all the productivity of that region increases, and it makes sense to connect initially Constantinople up to Adrianople. This is the thing, in the midst of warfare, you start fantasizing about peacetime stuff, and when you're in peacetime, after a couple of years of building railroads and factories, you start looking at your army as these toys that you want to kind of you want to start using, you know. But anyway, yeah, I think the first stretch will be Constantinople to Adrianople. Terrain is it has a big impact on the expense of railroads. I think early on as well, you can't even build them in mountainous areas anyway, and that develops things like nitroglycerine, perhaps dynamite, this sort of thing, you know. So you're very limited to where you can actually build them. But yeah, first stretch probably from Constantinople to Adrianople. Ideally, having the entire kind of tobacco belt, really. So linking up Constantinople to Salonika would be a nice move, because that would basically pass through these tobacco growing regions and would massively increase the kind of tobacco yield of our economy, and probably more than double it. But also Izmit, which is the kind of, you know, eastern part of Constantinople, going down through Bursa towards Smyrna would be good. But that would be our first rail line, really. It would be kind of Smyrna, Bursa, Izmit, Constantinople, Adrianople, Thracia or Kavala, and Salonika. I think that would be the plan. That would be the first kind of stretch of railroad, and that's purely economical, really. But that said, any units that we could then construct, for example, in Smyrna, we can then actually strategically redeploy forces from Smyrna. Well, actually, we can do that anyway by sea, so it doesn't really matter. But we can move forces, for example, from Constantinople to Smyrna in like a day or something. You know, you could move 10, 15, 20,000 men in a day, irrespective of the weather as well. That's a key thing, you know. I mean, if we had railroads dotted all over kind of Bulgaria, okay, there's areas that are controlled by the Russians, but we could move Omar. If we had enough railroad points, we could move Omar's force almost instantly to Salonika, for example. Get some heavy lift capacity there, then pick his force up. There we go. Passing turn, things are moving, things are happening. Day 4, day 5. No significant battles. Okay, they didn't move north, and I thought they were going to move north and try and engage Ismail's reserve corps, which is sitting in Constanza, or yeah, sitting in Constanza, I think. Or Varna, in fact. Yeah. Nothing happened. Quiet, quiet fortnight in the greater scheme of things. We all seem to end up in China, because that's when the last reports come through of kind of impending doom in the east. The crackling of battles in the distance. I need to very quickly check something in my options, because I play a multiplayer Pride of Nations game which has different settings, and it doesn't have any massive bearing, but you don't want to play lots and lots of turns with different settings from those which you obviously began the game with, because it just changes the game. It just changes the settings, or the options, I should say. Come on, finish processing day 15. Thank you. Right, I've got to very quickly check. Back to menu, options. Okay, no, that's fine, okay. Right. Okay. No change, but they are definitely besieging. Yeah, these forces are doomed, I think. I think they reached that crunch point. I think they just run out of supplies. Still torrential rain. Oh no, hang on. Okay, so no rain in Varna. How long will it take him now? 8 days. Yes. Yeah, it's happening. It is happening. Okay, that had exactly the desired result. Imperial Guard was deposited, of course, to accelerate its recovery and cohesion. So Ahmed Pasha's promoted. Good job. Let's get you in there. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Ahmed Pasha, let's give you your army corps back. Okay, I think we know what we're going to do, don't we? 11 days. Oh, yes. It's going to be a hell of a fight. How long? All the way to Constantinople. 13 days. It is going to be a hell of a march. But yeah, the weather's cleared sufficiently. He's organised. He's made preparations. It is game on. Gotta be kidding me. We don't even know what size force is, and he captured it. Well, that's extremely irritating, but anyway. "16 days. So yeah, he's activated again, at least, Ritza, to his credit, but he does need to sit tight. Who's saying nothing? Okay, so... so we do have a cavalry division. Where the hell does this force come from? I mean, was this the division that was sitting in Bitless the whole time? I don't know. It's just, where do these forces come from? I guess they just kind of melt through the frontier. I mean, in the last analysis, this is a really small force, like 6,000 men controlling. I mean, how large is this area? But yeah, for Christ's sake. The Bashi Bazook's going to be there, and yeah, I just going to have to assault posture all out attack and hope for the best, really. I mean, Bashi Bazooks are irregular forces. They're not going to do great, but... we'll move the cavalry division back. We'll detach the cavalry division from Rita Pasha's force and sort of move that back. We're just going to have to, really. Although, Hussein Avni is a fast mover, isn't he? How long would it take him to get here? 22 days. Brilliant. Not that fast. I guess it's because his force is disorganised, but... Right. It's becoming disorientating now. Where's the cavalry division? Let's move another Bashi Bazook force down here. Just try and kind of beef up our presence a little bit. Right, let's read through our reports properly then, before we obsess too much. So we've got Bashi Bazooks back in there, that's fine. Okay, building a second textile shop, finished being built in Constantinople. The real irritation here, of course, is the economic disruption. We are going to obviously set to kind of what you might imagine. Yeah, and we are going to march all the way to Constantinople, targeting von Luder's force. So that's the Russian general. I think he is new. Grenadier Corps. Okay, right. Yeah, 13 days. He's going to engage everything en route. Actually, we'll just set to offensive posture, I think. We'll bypass the resistance of the town because we want to engage everything outside it. And, yeah. That is going to be a hell of a fight. The Reserve Army Corps isn't kind of ready yet, really. My thinking is we'll deposit that into... now we'll set that to sustained attack. It's going to take him 5 days. It's going to take It's going to take him 9 days to get there. Yeah, we'll just keep him on an offensive posture. So if anything tries to move north towards Varna, when engaging any small forces, don't think it will happen. But sold 9 iron. Okay, exports looking decent. 59 units for a 205. Yeah, it's the economy is being disrupted now for sure. Okay, interesting turn. I'm going to call it a day there at that cliffhanger moment. I'm tempted to pass turn again because I kind of want to see what happens. But yeah, instead of playing through the turn, we kind of know what the turn is going to be. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to pass turn, and then the next report is either going to be a string of colossal battles as Omar Pasha moves from Plevna to Varna to Rumelia, engaging Gorshakov's force there with the scattered brigades and divisions. He's got a reasonable force there. I'm guessing 30,000 troops, something like that. Then Omar Pasha is going to move south towards Adrianople, lift the siege on Adrianople, presumably re-engaging Gorshakov's force, which would have fallen back towards Adrianople, and then ultimately engaging Luda's force in Constantinople, which is besieging Constantinople, which is a guard corps and a dragoon division. By the looks of it, I don't know, but it is going to be one hell of a fight, and yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I think whatever the weather, it's going to kind of answer. I mean, the answer it's kind of already answered insofar as I think these forces are a mixture of some forces that escaped from Agosta through Plevna when he was set to a defensive posture, combined with forces that have landed, and they're obviously making a play for the centre again. There's no prospect of him taking Constantinople or Adrianople. Both of those places are very well supplied. They're both very large fortresses indeed. So that's not on the cards, but there's going to be a string of big battles. And yeah, we're going to move the Imperial fleet 3 days' time back into the Bosporus, and the Imperial fleet's going to lend its guns. Yeah, it's going to lend its guns to support Omar Pasha as he moves south. So we'll see what happens. We'll fall off that bridge when we come to it. But yeah, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.